Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review, and today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And today we're going to take a look at the new Marvel Infinite Series 3 1/4 inch Thor figure from Hasbro. Now this figure is part of the second series in the Marvel Infinite Series lineup, and as you're probably aware by now, this Infinite Series is just a rebranding of the Marvel Universe line previously released by Hasbro. And like with all the figures in this Infinite Series, it comes in the same kind of generic styled card back. You've got the Marvel Infinite Series logo up at the top, you've got the 4 Avenger icons underneath that, and then you have the figure clearly displayed on the card back with the name of the character below. Then on the back of the figure, or back of the packaging, we have a look at the figure, we have a brief bio, and I'll just point out here that on the bio here, this indicates that this is in fact the original Thor and not Eric Masterson Thor. Now I think that's actually an error, and I'll go into more detail about that when we get the figure open. But I just want to point out that the bio here on this packaging indicates that this is the original Thor, not Eric Masterson, who later becomes Thunderstrike. And then underneath the picture of the figure is a look at the other figures in the second wave. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. Now, this is Thor based on, you can look at it as one of two ways. This is either Thor went back in around the late 300s of Thor's comic, where he starts to grow out a beard because he suffers some serious injuries, and he basically grows this beard to cover up scars that are on his face. And he starts wearing the more armored helmet that covers his eyes and everything. And eventually he ends up putting on a whole kind of like armor suit that covers his entire body as his injuries get worse over time. I think this was during the Walt Simonson years on Thor. And that's what the bio on the back of the packaging indicates that this Thor is this is in fact the original Thor. However, there was a time also when a human by the name of Eric Masterson assumed the identity of Thor, and also sported the beard, mustache, and the armor helmet. And as most of you probably know, Eric Masterson eventually went on to become the character known as Thunderstrike. But before that, he was briefly Thor and did have this look. Now, it's my opinion that this version of this figure is really the Eric Masterson Thor and not the original Thor. And I say that because you'll notice on his boots here, you'll notice how it's all just gold. Now, the fact is this isn't even exactly the correct look for Eric Masterson, but I think it's more fitting to Eric Masterson than the original Thor, because on the original Thor, and I'll just pull out the original Thor figure that Hasbro previously done for comparison. This is a figure, Marvel Universe figure of the original Thor, and you can see they're very similar in design and everything. Different head sculpts and helmets, obviously. A little bit different with the sculpting on the shirt and everything, but the costume overall is the different, except for the boots. Now these are the boots that Thor wears, and you'll notice it's got the yellow with the black stripes, and then it's got the black knee pads. Now this is basically, if you wanted that original Thor, when he was sporting the beard, if you wanted a more accurate version, what I would recommend is if you have this original Thor figure, and you take the head off of what I'm calling the Eric Masterson Thor, and you stick it on that original figure, and that would give you basically the look of Thor when he suffered those injuries. Because you'll notice he's got these boots, and basically his costume, other than his helmet, did not change until he put on the armor. Going back to the Eric Masterson Thor, the Eric Masterson Thor did differ a little bit, because the boots, it did not have the black on the boots like Thor did. Now, the Eric Masterson did still have the striping I believe, on the bottom parts of the boots. So that's actually, this figure's a little even off from the Eric Masterson. But I would still say that this is more fitting for Eric Masterson, who later becomes Thunderstrike, than Thor. Minute detail, I know, but just something I wanted to point out. So other than that, this figure's got pretty good detail. The cape is removable. It's a same kind of material we see with most of the capes in this line. It's a rubbery type vinyl material, sculpted with the flowing look and everything. It's got the little pegs on the back that fit on the figure's back. He's also got his hammer, and it's got the little inscribe for Thor on the hammer. It's hard to really, all you can really kind of read is just the name Thor on it. Otherwise it looks just kind of like scribble, but it is there on the hammer. And the hammer itself is kind of a short handle, different from like the more modern looking Thor figure that we've gotten for this line. You'll see that handle's a little bit longer. Just a little, actually the entire hammer is a little bit bigger. And the figures themselves are actually, give you a comparison. The modern Thor is more bulkier looking than the older Thors. The scale in this figure is pretty good, I would say, overall. He stands, if you count to the top of his wings on his helmet, he stands just under 5 inches tall. So he's pretty good scale. You'll see here he is next to one of the Marvel Universe Hulks, and you'll see they're roughly about the same height. Hulk's obviously a bigger build, but height-wise they're about the same. Here he is next to the Marvel Universe Hercules, and again you'll see they're pretty close to about the same size. Thor's a little bit taller with his wings, but for the most part they're about the same height. Just for another size comparison, here he is next to one of the Marvel Universe Iron Man figures, and you'll see he's definitely taller than Iron Man. And then just for one more, here he is next to the Marvel Universe Wrecker figure, and again you'll see he's a bit taller than the Wrecker. So for the most part I think the scale is pretty good on this figure. For articulation, it's pretty good for a Marvel Universe Infinite Series figure. His head is just on a ball joint, so he doesn't have a lot of up and down movement, especially with the hair, but he can look left and he can look right. His arms are attached with your standard ball hinge joint at the shoulder, so he's got good rotation and he can get the arm out. He's got the bicep swivel, he's got the single hinged elbow, and then he's got a swivel at the wrist. Then he has a midsection joint, so you can look down and you can look back some, and he's got a swivel there, and then he's also got a swivel at the waist. Just to note, the belt is a separate piece from the figure. It's not removable or anything, but it is separate from the figure. And the legs are standard ball joints. He can do the splits about that much. He can get his leg forward about that much. And then for out and back, or to get it back, you have to do it more out because of the way the butt's sculpted. There's no thigh swivel. He does have double jointed knees that are hidden by the knee pads, so you can bend the knees pretty good. And then he does have an up and down joint and a swivel at the ankle. Doesn't have a pivot, but he does have the up and down, so he's got a little up and down movement there. He's got with the hinge. And then he's got the 2 peg holes at the bottom of his feet. That's my review. Overall, I think this is a pretty nice looking figure, and if you're a Thor fan, you'll probably definitely want to pick it up. I do have to say that I would kind of rather, if they were going to do the Thor when he started getting those injuries and stuff, I think it would have been much cooler if they had done a figure with the actual full armor that he started to wear during that time period. I think that would have made for a much cooler figure than just doing it with the beard and mustache. And as far as Eric Masterson goes, I would probably rather have a Thunderstrike figure than Eric Masterson as Thor. So, again, either way you go, I would have probably liked to have seen a little bit different versions of whichever character you consider this to be. But still, for the most part, I like it. And like I said, you can, technically they call it on the bio the original Thor. I consider this to be Eric Masterson, and it's really up to you which one you want to call it. And so that's my review. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, I'll check you later.